Welcome, everyone. Good morning. It is Wednesday, May 8th, 2019. Welcome to the Daily Kofefi. I'm Carter, and I'm here, as always, with the Bad Mama Jamma, who is taking videos of the rain.
Good morning, Carter.
Keri Smith.
I was just telling Carter that there was a huge downpour here yesterday. It actually drove me in. I was weeding, and it drove me inside, and I took a video of it to show him, and he said, "You're officially an old person."
Yeah, I don't know anyone who takes videos of the weather to share with people, but good job. Good job, Keri. You can follow us on, or subscribe. Please subscribe to us on YouTube. That's the best way to support us right now. So please do that. And I guess that's it for the intro. Keri, do you have anything in particular that you want to talk about today?
Not really. I didn't really look at the news yet today. Well, actually, all I saw was a couple of things about some of the presidential candidates. I don't know if you saw that.
No, I saw a thing about Trump just invoked executive privilege. So for some of the Russiagate, I don't know what we're calling it, Russia collusion stuff, I guess the Democrats in the House want to look at the unredacted Mueller report, which was parts of it were redacted. Very little of it was actually redacted, but parts of it were redacted due to things like confidential, like classified information and ongoing investigations, because there's still stuff being investigated and you can't release things because it could screw up an investigation. So they got all pissed off, and I think they sent a subpoena to the White House, and the White House is like, no, we're not giving you more information. Which, I think this whole thing just, people's reaction just completely depends on where they are, what they already think. So if you're a Trump supporter, your answer is like, yeah, of course, there's ongoing investigations, and he knows that you guys would just leak it and leak the portions of it that were most damaging, if possible, and use it against him, and you don't need it. And there's ongoing investigations and other stuff that shouldn't be in there. So that would be their stance, and that's all true, I'm sure. And from the Democrat side, they're like, Trump just doesn't want us to see the details and blah 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 blah. It might implicate him, and like, I don't know, maybe it does make him look bad. So that might be true also. So I don't think anything that's happening now in this whole thing, which is one of the reasons we aren't talking about it much, but anything that's happening now, I don't think changes anyone's mind on anything at this point.
No, I'm not a Trump voter. People watch this podcast know that, but this whole Russia thing has been just a shell game, just a distraction. It's nothing. And it keeps people occupied with something so that they're not paying attention to things that might actually affect their lives.
Yeah. I just finished, I recently finished Spygate by Dan Bongino and Denise McAllister. And what's fascinating, it's about the Trump-Russia thing, but what's fascinating to me about it is, to use a Trump term, the whole thing is so swampy. There's so much weirdness going on between, and I'm not saying there's not weirdness with Trump. There was some, but really what struck me more was all the weirdness with the Hillary Clinton campaign and the FBI and the Department of Justice and the intelligence community generally, and just all of this kind of crazy stuff. There's still not really an understanding of what, quote, paragraph 1 is, which is like, how did things actually start? And there's just a lot of connections between, Clinton and the dossier, and like, it's just, you realize, like, really normal, like, some basic things. Here's two basic things that I don't want to talk about this too much, but there's two basic things that I think people should know. One is, there's all this, like, we know for certain that Russia hacked the DNC servers. We know who it is. Even the Mueller report is like Guccifer, blah, 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 right? No one ever looked at DNC servers except for a private company hired by the DNC.
Wow.
The FBI never saw the servers.
So that's right. They wouldn't let the FBI look at it. I forgot about that.
Never let anyone look at the servers ever. They paid a private company who did an investigation and said, it's the Russians. And that was the end of it. and they never let. So just that is kind of like totally weird, totally weird. And maybe it was the Russians.
And how weird is it that we forget facts like that?
Right. And we're supposed to read this report and go, oh, well, the intelligence community says it definitely isn't. The Mueller report says right here, it definitely is the Russians. But like, what's that based on? It's based on a private company's who was hired by the DNC to tell them what went wrong assessment. So, there's weird things like that. And there's also weird things. I don't know if people maybe remember this, but it was the DNC who paid their lawyer, Perkins Coie, to hire Fusion GPS to do opposition research on Trump, which was basically the genesis of this dossier, which was then passed to the FBI in a route that went through the intelligence community to make it look real, even though it wasn't like self-generated from the intelligence community. It was passed through the intelligence community to the FBI so that it looked real. And then to get a FISA warrant, the FBI said the corroborating evidence is this story in BuzzFeed.
Yes.
Is the dossier, which was just leaked. It's the same dossier leaked.
It's
so like,
they used the dossier, the same dossier to say this is the
So look, even if Trump was 100% guilty of everything, you would need people who care about the country need to be very, very, very concerned about the process and the shit that happened on the back end here. And those are just two kind of high level things that are obvious and true, and I don't think disputed by anyone. And frankly, if I was going to investigate something, those are the kind of things I would investigate. To say nothing of like the weird text between Peter Strzok and his paramour, talking about insurance plans, and we'll never let this guy get elected, and don't worry, and we haven't, like, all this kind of weird stuff. It's like I said, even if the guy's guilty, which I don't think he is guilty of what they're claiming he is, but even if he were, the bigger story is how the machinery of the state was used to go after someone, even if it eventually uncovered something real, which again, I don't think it did. It's scary.
It's scary. It's very concerning. And that's why I say it's like a shell game. You're not paying attention to what you should be paying attention to. They're telling everyone, and they're working in collusion with the media.
Of course, right.
And the media is telling us what we should be focusing on.
Right.
Which is not what we should be focusing on. It's
right.
Like,
so Christopher feels like, oh, I'm going to leak this to the media, and I'm going to give it to the DOJ, to the CIA, and have them, maybe it was just someone, I don't remember who it was, Brenner. I'm going to leak it to the media, give it to the intelligence community, have them give it to the FBI. The FBI is going to then look at the media leak and like use that as corroborating evidence. It's just totally corrupt. It's totally corrupt. And did Trump obstruct justice or do things that would be obstruction of justice? Like maybe, yeah, I don't know. But that's not my problem. I mean, like, yeah, I got problems with politicians, but that's not as scary to me. A guy trying to obstruct justice because he doesn't want people going after what is eventually a nothing burger. Yeah, that's a pain in the ass. It's Trump. It's bad. If that was the extent of the crimes, I would say, yeah, let's go after him and get someone better in the White House. But he's like the best of it. I don't want to say he's the best, but like everyone around him is worse. Everyone, like, it's like these swamp creatures like pointing out a wart on the guy. I'm like, yeah, he has a wart. Let's get rid of that. That's the last priority. Can we first figure out what the hell you guys are doing with FISA courts, and are you trying to set people up? And is the DNC getting away with paying for opposition research and having it funneled in so they can spy on people? It's just, and then there's argument. It's not spying, it's surveillance. Like I saw a tweet yesterday that was like, surveillance is the fancy French word for spying.
Exactly. So surveillance. This is the get the beam out of your own eye.
Yeah. Anyway, I really didn't want to talk too much. I'll stop about the Mueller report.
No, you made me think of something. The first thing you were talking about how, I completely forgot that fact that they didn't let the DNC did not let the FBI look at their servers. They refused. And
Right. No one's ever seen him. No
And
one's
that's
ever.
fine. And they take their word for it. And it made me think of that moment in the hoax documentary where, hey, no, there's a lot of little dogs in here today. Good.
It made me
Everybody
think
good?
of documentary.
Yeah. So it made me think of that moment in the hoax documentary where Cerner was just showing the clip of the interview he did on 60 Minutes. And they're trying to say that he pushes fake news, but they're so oblivious to their own fake news. They don't even see the questions coming. So they ask him, for example, what's his name? Scott Paley, is that the guy on 60 Minutes? He asked him, you pushed a rumor that you, after there was that video of Clinton like passing out.
Right.
Remember that video? And you pushed a rumor that there was a doctor who's diagnosed her without ever having seen her and said that she had Parkinson's. And Cernovich is like, well, the doctor thought she did, and he asked them, Scott Paley's like, but she had pneumonia. She had pneumonia. And Cernovich is like, how do you know that? And he's like, because they told us that. The campaign told us that. Well, why would you trust the campaign?
Right. Yeah. He's like,
and he's like, he doesn't have an answer because they just take their word for it. It's not journalism.
If it was the Trump campaign, but they would if it was the Clinton campaign.
Oh, totally. If it was the Trump campaign, they wouldn't take. And by the way, they're hypocrites because they're all armchair diagnosing Trump. I mean,
right. Yeah, they do that all the time. They've got books by people who've never met Trump about how he is psychological issues.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Anyway, I will say one last thing about the Russia Nothing Burger. This just perfectly encapsulates where I don't think they realize that it's backfiring. So someone like me, who's a lifelong Democrat, who did not vote for Trump, they have done a lot in the past 2 years to make me really empathize with the man. And they haven't done anything that shows me that they care about things that actually affect my life as a voter. It's just a complete circus. And so I think there's a lot of people like me, liberals, who are not going to be voting for the Democratic candidate in 2020. That's just my...
Yeah, or they'll be voting for... Yeah, not for the Democratic candidate. Yeah.
Right. I mean, I might vote for Tulsi Gabbard or something in the primaries, but I'm...
Right.
Yeah. Well, can we talk about a couple of the candidates then? Is that a good segue?
If you want to talk about the candidates, yeah, I don't know the news you're talking about, so tell us.
So look this up because I didn't get it in depth into it yet, but Cory Booker basically was talking about he wants to do a national gun registry.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah. Which, again, this is something I didn't used to understand about why that's wrong. I was like, why shouldn't there be a registry? And now look at what's happening in New Zealand. That's exactly why there shouldn't be a registry, because then they know as the guns. And when they say, hey, you can't, when they take away your Second Amendment rights, they can go and confiscate the gun.
Yeah. Do you remember the movie Red Dawn?
I do, but I didn't watch it. Was it good?
How dare you not watch the movie Red Dawn? I mean, the original one with Patrick Swayze. Yeah, I mean, granted, this was a silly, fantastical movie of something that would never happen. But in the movie, the U.S. is invaded by Soviets and their allies, and I think I don't remember if they're Cubans or whatever. Doesn't matter. Yeah, the guy in charge on the ground in this small town where they land in this town to take it over. First thing he does, he's like, go to the gun store and find out the forms of, I forget the number of, of people who've purchased firearms, and like go round those people up. Get
Yeah.
the gun. A national registry just makes that easier, both for foreign invaders, which I think we are unlikely to experience anytime soon, but more importantly for our own governments. And Venezuela is a great example as well.
The other thing about Booker is that he said in a statement, I am sick and tired of hearing thoughts and prayers for the communities that have been shattered by gun violence. This is a constant thing now that they all say. They're basically denigrating thoughts and prayers, which I find something, there's something really distasteful about that to me. It's like mocking. It's like, it makes me think of Obama's comment about clinging to their God and their guns or something. Remember that quote? Clinging to their God and their guns.
Yeah, vaguely.
It's a kind of looking down their nose at people who pray.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm less likely to take it personally. But I don't really view it that way. I just view it as like this. It's a call to action. It's like, yeah, your thoughts and prayers aren't enough. Like, so that's why they say fuck your thoughts and prayers, because it's like we need to act. We need to act. Your thoughts and prayers are useless, right? We need to
But they're
ban
wrong.
I'm just saying, like, they need to, that's their.
Yeah.
They view thoughts and prayers as a response to. They view thoughts and prayers as a hollow response, because what they want is a response where you ban the guns. And just to be clear, banning the guns means taking the guns out of the hands of private citizens and giving them to police officers and the military. So there's no such thing as an actual gun ban. No country doesn't have guns. It's just the government has guns. The same police and government that most of the left is claiming that there's, I mean,
They hate them.
They hate the cops. They talk about how the cops are horrible and racist all the time, and only the cops should have guns. That's their position.
And Trump is Hitler. Let's give Hitler all of our guns.
Yes. That's the rationale. So
Owen Benjamin, back before he went a little off the reservation, he had a really funny video about that. It was he made a parody video of like, it's time to give our guns to Hitler. Like,
yeah, because that always goes well. Let's switch topics for a minute. Let's pull up this. Let's talk about Uber and Lyft. And I only care about this because I was going to take an Uber today. Maybe I still will, or Lyft. I was going to take a Lyft. So Uber and Lyft are striking today. Apparently, a bunch of people on Uber and Lyft platforms are striking today. They're saying, don't use the app. We're not going to drive today, blah, blah, blah. They're demanding a guaranteed $28 per hour minimum rate.
what? Is that kind of high, right?
Well, they say, so the after expenses like gas, it gets to $17 an hour after those expenses. And apparently New York City has done that. So that's what's going on in the Uber Lyft world. I'm not opposed to this strike. I think striking is fine. That's how free markets work. You strike. I don't think the government should get involved. I don't think New York should mandate anything. But if the drivers can get away with demanding something from Uber, and it's a negotiation, that's how you negotiate. So, good for them. Maybe they'll get more money out of it. I don't know that they should. They're making weird arguments. That's like, it's weird. There's this movement within. I see it mostly on the left of we'll call it the shared economy, the economy where you like work part-time by driving your car or whatever, and the gig economy, I guess, is the word. And of course you're not a full-time employee at that point. And when you're not a full-time employee, then you don't get benefits and all this other stuff. And so people are complaining about that, and they're blaming the companies. But you can't really blame Uber and Lyft for this. Uber and Lyft only arose because it's cheaper to do it that way. Like those companies wouldn't exist if you had a full-time employee doing all of that stuff. Like, so its existence is predicated on the fact that you're not a full-time employee and you're less expensive. That's the entire model. So, I don't.
All of the gig economies are that way. I mean, that's why Airbnb is a thing. It's like, it started anyway because it's cheaper to book a room at somebody's house than a hotel. Not always. Now there's like fancy Airbnb destinations and stuff, but.
So anyway, if you're looking for Uber or Lyft today, you may not get it. I don't know how it's going to affect the app. I haven't looked at the app yet. But you've got Sanders, you got Bernie, your favorite Bernie pal. Uber says it can't pay its drivers more money, but rewarded its CEO with nearly $50 million last year. People who work for multi-billion-dollar companies should not have to work 70 or 80 hours a week to get by. I stand with Uber and Lyft drivers going on strike on May 8th. So I also stand with them. I think it's okay for them to go on strike. But this kind of language is indicative of ignorance over business. So people who work multi-billion dollar companies shouldn't have to work 70 or 80 hours a week. They don't have to. They can quit. They do not have to do that, Bernie. If there's another opportunity that makes better money, they are free to go do that. That's how actual voluntary exchange between free individuals works. So they don't have to. And this idea that like, oh, the CEO shouldn't make so much money. So socialists are inherently arrogant. And this is part of like central planners are inherently the most arrogant people on the planet because they think that they can plan how everything goes, which we can get into another discussion someday about how massively arrogant that is. But they think that they know what's best for things. And so for Bernie, the CEO, he imagines the CEO of Uber like he just sits around a mahogany desk and makes some phone calls and has some meetings and like not that hard. Anyone can be the CEO. Why does he get $50 million? He gets $50 million because he's worth more than $50 million. That's how that works. Like companies pay you because you are worth more than what you're being paid. So if he makes $50 million, it means he is responsible for bringing in more than $50 million to Uber. So
I don't know if that's always the case.
Absolutely. It's over the long term. I mean, in the short term, you can overpay someone and realize, but then the board fires them, right? Generally, right? But this is how the idea that it's easy to run a company like that is something that you can only have if you've never run a company. It's extremely complex. There are very few people in the world who can do a good job of managing a company the size of Uber. And those people are worth a shit ton of money. You don't complain. You don't see him complaining about how much LeBron James makes because LeBron James, I don't even know what team. I'm so not about.
Are we talking about football now?
I think it's basketball.
I'm kidding.
It doesn't matter. Like he brings in more money than he's paid in salary.
That's
right?
An interesting comparison. I've never really thought of that before. But I mean, but I'm also one of these people that thinks that that's an unholy amount of money, and
there's no such thing as an unholy amount of money. That's because money is bad. Money is not.
Money's bad. It can be for some people.
Money is the only alternative of money. You either have money or a gun. Those are your two alternatives. Money is the representation of like voluntary exchange between people, and the only thing you have other than voluntary exchange is force. So you choose one: money or guns. How do you want to run the world?
Right, but I'm just saying, I think that much money is a dangerous thing sometimes. I don't think it's healthy for people. I'm talking about.
I don't know. I don't see why not. Why is that not healthy? Would you like $50 million?
See, my instinct is to say yes, but actually probably I would not. I would not be good with it. It would not be good for me.
Then you may never earn it. I mean, that's a separate issue.
But I would like a modest, pick a more reasonable number.
Well, look, I mean, the fact is when you make that much money, I mean, I have friends who are worth hundreds of millions of dollars. I don't think actually, no, that's not true. I do have one friend who's a billionaire. I don't see him very much. He's like more of an acquaintance, but it's not like these people, you don't buy golden toilets and shit unless you're Trump, right? Like weird people who do stupid stuff, but like most of them spend it building other companies, investing, all that money that goes to investment is like that's creating jobs somewhere else and helping someone else build their company. Most of them a lot of them get addicted to funding startups and investing stuff. Like they turn into investors on the side.
Okay, this is an interesting point. Let me ask you a question. Is this maybe why almost everyone who wins the lottery, who wins millions of dollars, it does horrible things to them because they didn't actually work to earn it? It was a fluke.
Because they don't live a lifestyle where they would ever get that much money normally. And so they don't know how to manage that much money. They all go broke. I mean, I think that the number of people who actually have, if you win $1 million in the lottery or more, the number of people who actually maintain that, like keep it in any way, I think is very small. I think it's a very small percentage. I don't know what it is. We could look it up.
Oh, it's really small. It's actually fascinating. And it's not just that it's small. It ruins their, like a lot of them end up killing themselves. There's like murders in their families. There's,
Right. right? But when you know, I don't think that happens at the CEO of Uber level as much.
Right, but that's why that's an interesting question though, because maybe it's because what you're arguing is a person who makes that much money by being the CEO of Uber has earned it and is able to
Yeah, look, I'm not saying
have that much money without it ruining his life.
Yeah, look, I'm not saying at any particular company. I don't know Uber's situation in particular. Maybe they're overpaying the CEO. Maybe he hasn't made them an extra $50 million or more a year. Maybe he sucks. I don't know, right? But you know, the market corrects over time. You've got investors in Uber. If he's not bringing in more than they're paying, the stock price will start to decline because people don't. This is what's happening to Tesla. I mean, not because of Elon Musk's salary, but people are hammering on Tesla because there's like a lot of promises and they haven't been delivered, and this stock is starting to look shaky. Eventually, that translates into shakeups at the board level and shakeups at the management level. Should the market be more responsive and do it faster? Yeah, like there's some inefficiencies there that I think are bad, but you know, it's a reflection of how people perceive. So at the very least, it's a reflection of how people perceive the value that the CEO is giving. Whether he's actually giving that value or not, that's for the board and shareholders to determine. But it's at least a perception. It's a perception, right? They think that he's bringing in at least that much more money. And in most cases, I would say that's probably true. That's why the companies continue to grow. And you know, Uber's a great example of the CEO right now is not the original or even the first. I think he's the third or fourth CEO. But you know, it wasn't always this big of a company, and getting it to this size is very difficult. The current CEO didn't get it to this size. Travis, I think, is mostly responsible for getting it to this size. But anyway, the point is, you know, you want the top talent, and just like a sport, the top talent is expensive, right? The top talent is expensive, and that's what you pay for it. And if you don't want the top talent, you can pay less, right? But you get what you pay for. Right? There are some exceptions. I would say the big banks are not really in the free market. They're like this cronyism scheme with the Federal Reserve and the government. Like, so I would say, you know, hate on the big bank CEOs all you want, because I don't think you can make an argument they're providing actual value there. They're in this kind of oligarchy. So, but Uber's not. That was another rant. Wasn't it? It was a fucking rant again. Okay, so wait. I ranted. We had a side discussion about your previous business and probably even more boring stuff than the rant. But it's time to wrap the show up, Keri.
It's time to wrap the show up. We had a good time. We had a good covfefe, guys. Come back and see us tomorrow.
Most of it will be on the cutting room floor, the metaphorical cutting room floor. But that's okay.
That's okay.
Join us tomorrow for some more covfefe. Oh, and I think I don't know if I want to announce him yet. Last time I announced someone, it didn't work out well. So let's not announce it. But we'll see everyone tomorrow for Deprogrammed and, of course, Daily Covfefe. So subscribe to us on YouTube, please. And share the video. And yeah, I've got some editing to do. So hopefully we can get this down to less than an hour.
Bye, guys.
Bye.